Misty Mountain was promoted like any other ordinary race. Social medias would put out the track design in advance, users on Reddit would try and guess their best qualifying lines, and the JMR Twitter would put out little pictures of the actual track. But this race would not be like any other. Now usually in these videos, we focus on one or two teams and talk about how they got to their special moment. But this video will be different. So much happened, and it affected so many teams that we'll be going through most of the events that happened in order. No reason to wait any longer. Let's find out why Misty Mountain was the best, worst race. Now, we're really not going to be focusing on the championship standings too much. Crazy Cat's Eyes still came out with a huge lead despite Yellow Eye's goose egg, so the standings aren't very important here, because nothing really changed. But oh boy, was there controversy. Let's get into the first part. There was an insane amount of collisions and mini races in this qualifiers, and it severely affected multiple teams. Now there is a very specific reason for the collisions, and that's the fast release. To give you an idea of how fast these releases were, let's compare to the previous qualifiers at the Palette Park. There was not a single time that marbles were released under 4 seconds of each other, giving marbles lots of cushion to work with. Even if they didn't have great times, the marbles never collided. Now what about Misty Mountain? Well, all the marbles were released under 3 seconds of each other. That's a crazy difference. Some marbles were even approaching a second apart, and those instances affected marbles the most. Like right here, Bumble and Cerulean. They were released just 1.04 seconds from each other. They collided after the speed boost. Bumble took it well and helped Cerulean a ton. Like, they were off by 0.6 and then shaved off half a second because of the boost here. Now, that performance benefited both. But what about when it didn't? That would be our next two examples. First, Clementine and Starry. They were released just 1 2200ths of a second apart, and Clementine had an amazing start. But a quick bump into Starry stopped all of their momentum, and I mean, look how much they fell. From within 0.2 by the end of the first sector to being 0.9 off by the time they finished. The next example, featuring Rapidly and Hazy, was just as bad, except neither marble benefited. This collision in the final sector caused Rapidly to lose 4 more tenths of a second, and Hazy lost some time too, and that lost time caused him to qualify in last. Now, that's it for the collisions. The release time severely affected the performance of some of these marbles, and it added very unnecessary drama. Now Q2 and Q3 didn't have any noticeable problems. Usually, fans like to use those races as previews for what will go on for the real thing. And let's just say that the trailer was far from the final product. Let's get into the race. Let's start with some good old racing before we get into the big events. Things started out very calm, and Wispy took the lead out of the third turn. This is pretty big for the Midnight Wisp, as Waspy did amazing last race in their win. It looked like Wispy had a strong chance to continue that momentum and help the Wisp climb into the top 3. Sadly though, it would never stick. Wispy let Mimo and Clutter get by. Then, they had a very disastrous final sector as they let 3 other racers pass them at once. Kinda a fun moment, and it was a great start to the race. And now, our 3 main characters for the next part. We're in the top 5. Let's get into it. These 3 marbles all came into the top 3 in lap 4, and they would remain there for a while. Multiple overtakes took place between them. Suddenly, after Mimo took a hard bump, it turned into a 2 marble race, with Cerulean and Bumble developing a 3-second lead over Mimo. I bet many fans were getting flashbacks of what happened at Race Forest. Suddenly though, something weird happened. If you are a Balls of Chaos fan, you were probably very confused about what was happening on the left side of your screen. And then, Greg went ahead and explained what was happening for you.
Clutter's stuck in the safety marble lane, it looks like, just on the far right side of hearing from race control. Got a bit antsy coming off of the belt. What's happened over there?
But as you see, we have not changed parts yet, because although it was weird, it was not concerning. Clutter was fine, probably a little shaken up, but they weren't hurt at all. It was unlikely that they would come back though, as it would require a safety marble, but those rarely happen. So, sorry Clutter, but I wouldn't count on it. Anyways, we're back to racing, and it looks like we're on lap 9. Bumble attempts to make a move for the lead down the stretch, but then... Clutter was freed by the safety marble that had to be deployed to rescue Bumble. Clutter purposely let the safety marble go first, so that it can clear the field for Clutter. But the safety marble missed Bumble, and Clutter was way too close to the safety marble, which caused the two to collide. Clutter was also stuck. The safety marble will get another go at the two, and just barely grazed them. But it was not enough to dislodge either of them. Cerulean did something extremely smart as well on the safety marble's second attempt. They slowed down when the safety marble was in front, so when they ended up missing the pair again, Cerulean was too far off for the safety marble to collide with them. Let's also realize that 14 total racers were still on the track. None of them were hitting the two for 3 total laps, until the race was finally stopped. A red flag, just the third in Marbula One history, was assessed. This one was way different than the first two, however, as it was just 2 marbles never getting dislodged compared to the whole field being stopped and of course Speedy's incident. But nonetheless, we had our first red flag, which made the race restart, which worked out horribly for our top 2. We cannot forget to mention how these 2 marbles, who were up by multiple seconds at times, fell as hard as they did. Mimo felt the effect right away. Multiple marbles had passed him up, and eventually, he fell down to 10th. In just 1 lap, Mimo went from gold contender to basement dweller. For a while, things did not get much better. They went even further down into 13th, before making a nice climb back into the middle pack. But their 8th place finishing position definitely could not compare to what could have been if they had gotten that silver or even the gold. Cerulean also fell off. It wasn't as fast nor as severe, but this hard bump here took them out of podium contention and forced them to fight for a spot inside the top 5. And they did get there. But the same question goes for Cerulean as well. Those 25 points could have helped them a ton to get into podium contention. Now that we know where our 2 previous contenders ended up, what about the marbles fighting for a podium? Well, that was quite the battle. Let's check it out. These 3 had an incredible race. They all led at some point, and there were many changes in the final few laps. First of all, Rapidly did amazing. Even though he ended up getting 3rd, there were multiple occasions where he would lose 1st place and get it back almost immediately. Compared to what he had done in the first 4 races, this was an outstanding race. Ballard also did great, took a peek at the lead at one point and had an incredible pass in the final sector to jump from 3rd to 2nd. And then there's Hazy. If not for a certain Thunderbolt, Hazy would not have been here, qualifying 16th and then finishing 1st. It's an amazing feat. I gotta say, I really enjoyed the race after the restart. It was really exciting with several lead changes, but by the end of the race, a certain O'Ranger was falling down the order. we could not have forgotten to talk about this weird moment. There is no footage for what happened, but based on what occurred to the previous 2 marbles that were stranded, Clementon must have gotten close to another marble, likely Mimo, since he was the marble in front of Clem when it happened. They probably bumped it to Mimo and lost all of their momentum, which caused them to not finish. This is the 3rd ever DNF in Marbula One history, and coincidentally, it was the same corner as the others. The final pan-out really summarized the state of this race the best. Well, as you read from the title, I called this race the best worst race, and I bet you now see where I'm coming from when I say that. There was some great quality racing, with constant battles for the lead and so many clutch passes. At the same time, several marbles were either retired, DNF'd, or suffered greatly from the restart. I don't really want to offer my opinions on the controversy or whatnot. I honestly haven't really thought about it that much. And I also thought that there wasn't a wrong decision made by Yella or the JMRC. It was just a series of unfortunate events. But feel free to give your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe and like if you enjoyed, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.